I'll put a piece here. I've been putting together all these different historical facts backed up by archaeology that suggest the Abrahamic, the so-called Abrahamic religions originated in Rome, in the Roman Empire, in the city of Rome, the holy city of Rome, in the cult of Divus Iulius, after the sacrifice of the Lord and Savior, the protector, the Messiah, the anointed Christus, Gaius Julius Caesar, the son of Venus. When he was killed, there was a commotion in the whole Roman Empire. It was just like 9/11, but throughout the whole empire. 52 BCE, when the time of Julius Caesar as a consul of Rome and Pompey Magnus also as a consul of Rome, descendant of Neptune, the god of the sea, the Roman Republic had many religious beliefs. Everything was religion. You have to do everything. You have to consult the augurs, consult the priest, and the senators were priests, generals, anybody that was anybody in Rome controlling the people were priests. There are many temples. Julius Caesar was descendant of Venus. The Roman people were descendant of the Greek god Aeneas. This is historical fact. So, many religions in the Roman Empire gave tolerance. Tolerance. When you have one religion, you have intolerance because nobody can believe anything else. Otherwise, they rank you down, they consider you inferior because you don't believe like they do. This happens here in the United States. Intolerance created by the Christian nuts. The language of the priesthood in Rome, in the Republic, was not Latin, was Greek, because they considered themselves descendant of the god Aeneas. So all the priests used all the prayers in Greek. Julius Caesar was fighting in Gaul. That's what 300 years later it would mutate in Galilee. The Sea of Galilee, not such a thing. There was not that name. It's Gallia, Gaul, what France is. And Julius Caesar forgave the enemies. He was going to create a really good peace in the Roman that was corrupt by the Senate of Rome. That's the reason of the Civil War. That's the reason it became a fight between the upper class of Pompey Magnus, controlling Rome, and Julius Caesar, who he actually made senators, the barbarians. He made them into senators. He told Pompey Magnus, writing him from Gaul, that he should be nice to his slaves, to have to give land to the slaves, and protect them, and give them rights, and some of the land to them. And Caesar was very famous for turning the other cheek, forgiving the enemies, forgiving those who had hurt him. Every time somebody went against Caesar and he defeated them, guess what he did? He forgave them. It is a historical fact that Gaius Julius Caesar, the son of Venus, which was also Pontifex Maximus, a Flamen Diales, which is priest of Jupiter, the highest god, he later, 300 years later, will be identified with Jupiter and also with his mother Venus. He protected the weak and the meek. He protected the Jews. The Jews were the merchants, along with all the Arabs of the province of Judea. They were in Arabia. They were considered the Christi. They were the merchants of the Roman Empire and considered inferior. Julius Caesar protected them. So the Jews considered Julius Caesar a Lord and Savior, a protector, and a Messiah, honorary son of David.
In 29 BCE, the son of God Augustus, that was 2 years after he defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, the Battle of Actium, he start building temples of the god Julius Caesar right here in Rome, the only holy city in the vast empire. The empire was not as big as this. This empire here is about 160 years later, during the reign of the son of God Trajan. He was a god that performed miracles. Augustus built temples all over, and for Jerusalem, all around, everywhere, and all had their own had their own versions, including here, Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem. It was controlled by King Herod, and Herod was a Germanophile. He controlled the dogma. He controlled the dogma that actually the Jewish had been translated in Alexandria, about 280 by the king, King Ptolemy Philadelphus. He translated the Pentateuch in Alexandria, the finest, the most intellectual city in the whole ancient world. And that's what the Jewish traditions came around. Herod changed the dogma and created their own version of Judaism here, and all based in the cult of Julius Caesar. Many of the religions, or the versions of the cult of Divus Iulius and the other religions, the Isis and all that, religions adopted in the Roman Empire, like the Egyptian religion was adopted by the Roman Empire and was transformed. So all this become mini sects, mini religions of the cult of Divus Iulius, and the other religions becomes absorbed into that. And this is in the year 130 CE. The tolerant Roman Empire was booming. It was incredible. And then we know what happened 300 years later under Constantine. At the end of the 3rd century, all this, many of the sects of the religion of Julius Caesar, they were tolerant, but they had their own version, and they are all talking about the Lord and Savior that was in heaven, in the shape of his comet, which was like this. And then they were all, believing in this God in heaven that was in Galilee. Then Jesus Christ started becoming, instead of Julius Caesar, started becoming Jesus Christ the Redeemer in Jerusalem, and which is a completely deviation, a distortion of the truth. In 325, or early after the defeat of Maxentius, the emperor in Rome, Constantine wanted the whole empire united it again. It had been divided in 4 pieces by Diocletian. He wanted all of them, and then it started saying, well, legalizing the following of the Christus, which actually was the version of the Christus in Rome. The other versions were kind of shunned upon, so forget about the other ones. So this was the beginning of Christianity. And then the church, all the bishops and all the people in control came around and that became the disintegration of the Roman Empire. And that's when initiated in the Dark Ages about 150 years later, because it was very much intolerance. They didn't tolerate anybody else. That was the beginning. And then Constantine said, oh, in hoc signo vinces, and he said the monogram of Christ, and put a P, which is the version of the comet that happened, the comet of Julius Caesar. So that's what the whole retardation, neurological retardation, intellectual stagnation started, thanks to Constantine the criminal.
In 325 CE, this psychopath made the religion of the Christus the only accepted in the empire. These are the symbol of the Divus Iulius, as you can see here in the Capitoline museums. This is very obvious. The cross with different symbols that would turn.
And now the Divus Iulium, the comet of Caesar, had been transformed by 2 keys, and the apex, which is the hat worn by the Roman flamens, the Roman priest, with the doors, the huge bronze doors of St. John Lateran from Roman times.
This huge bronze door used to be at the Curia, the Senate house built by.
This is very obvious. The star is the mother of the god Julius Caesar.
Sia benedetto Dio che non ha respinto.
The Christian ceremonies in this church, where once used to be a Roman temple, are no different to the ones performed 1900 years ago at the temple of Antoninus Pius and Faustina. Worship as gods and believe to perform miracles.